The latest data, though, from the Consumer Price Index, up 3% year over year. Personal Consumption Index is up 2.8% year over year. What data is he looking at? What's your benchmark?
Right. Well, one of the things that, if you saw his presentation in Pennsylvania, is he put up a bunch of charts, which he loves to do, where he went through the individual items that we've already sort of made a bunch of progress on. And so, for example, under Joe Biden, prescription drugs were up 9%. So far this year, they're down 0.6%. Gasoline is way down. It was like the highest ever under Biden,
Eggs,
and so on.
talking about eggs.
Yeah, he was talking about eggs. And so I think the way to think about inflation, of course, is that there are like micro effects, like the time that we had the avian flu affecting drug prices, and then macro effects, which is runaway spending, big deficits, and then an accommodative Fed policy. And I think
now
that
tariffs adding to some price increases according to the Fed chair.
Well, I think that the tariff evidence is mixed, but the point is that we've got deficit going way down. So right now it's looking like the deficit for this year will be $600 billion lower than it was last year. That really helps lower inflation. We've got the trade deficit cut in half from last year. And so all of these things are things that should continue to move us towards the Fed target of 2%.
Companies aren't necessarily going to bring items down, though, in terms of pricing, right? I mean, the president told the Wall Street Journal he didn't know when all of this money, quote, is going to kick in. I think he was talking to business investment and tariffs and help voters. All I can do is my job. When do you anticipate voters will feel this positive impact?
Right. Well, it's definitely the case that, and you guys have covered a lot, that consumer sentiment right now is lower than anyone would like. But, we find that very often happens during a government shutdown when everybody's really upset.
The last administration called that the vibe session, right?
No, but
the data is good, but people feel bad.
Yeah, but what's going to happen is, what's going to happen? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that people are going to see the high growth. Growth is 4%. Income growth is up about $1,200 this year. People look at their wallets and see they're doing better, which is why we had the biggest Black Friday ever, and so on. And so I think that
but that's more
the
higher
sentiment,
income.
The sentiment will catch up with the reality. Under Joe Biden, the fact is that real purchasing power dropped by about $3,000. So far this year, it's up by about $1,200 per family. And the money that we're talking about is like real money. So for groceries, it went from $400 a month to $525 a month under Biden. So that's like an extra more than $1,000 a year you have to spend on groceries. It's down this year for us, for the grocery package, but it's still got a lot of room to grow or to go.
A lot more to go. And the president reduced some tariffs on some of those grocery items with an eye towards that.
Yeah, if we don't make it here, then pretty much we don't tariff it.
Let me ask you, you mentioned gas. Oil prices globally are relatively low. We saw this Coast Guard interdiction with military forces boarding and seizing this vessel off the coast of Venezuela. Do you feel you have the leeway there, pricing-wise, to conduct more seizures or even a blockade of oil from Venezuela without it hurting?
Yeah, well, I'm not a foreign policy guy, so like what we do with Venezuela and whether we blockade is up to the president and Marco Rubio. But I could say
that you've got the leeway, right?
What's been going on is there's been kind of a black market for oil amongst sort of this sanctioned countries. And what we're doing is we're shutting that black market down. Whether that affects prices outside of the sanctioned countries is kind of an open question. Probably not.
You don't think it will?
No, because they're already kind of on the ropes, these countries. They're only getting oil when they get like sort of black fleets to sneak in and give them the oil. And that's what we're trying to slow down.
Okay.